Welcome back, accomplices, and happy Pride to all of our LGBTQ plus listeners. With it being the last weekend in Pride Month, we wanted a Pride episode.
The cases we have this week do involve those in the LGBTQ plus community. We would like to communicate that we are in no way trying to insult or offend anyone in the community.
We also have a special guest host this week, so let's introduce ourselves. If you don't already know, I'm Tara.
I'm Shayna, and as Tara said, we have a special guest with us this week from Ohio. We are so glad she could join us and to have her perspective as a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
What's up, accomplices? I'm Tia, queer commentator for the week. Very honored to be here, ladies. Thank you so much for having me. Big shout out to all my fellow oomps-oomsers.
So, Tia, although you are not presenting a case this week, you do have facts. So, what did you dig up for us?
So, first off, let me just start by saying happy Pride to all of the queer Judies in the land. Pride typically symbolizes a time of unbridled freedom surrounding sexual expression, gender fluidity, self-identity, and coexistence. Often referred to as the People's Parade, Pride creates an atmosphere of love and unity between identifying participants and supporting allies. I liken it to gay Christmas, if you will. At its core, this month is a time to really promote unity, pay homage to our iconic pioneers or mothers, those like William Dorsey Swann, Gladys Bentley, Bayard Rustin, Sylvia Rivera, Stormy Lavari, and of course, Marsha Pay It No Mind Johnson, to name a few. Pride Month is an opportunity to tribute all those who fought tirelessly for our freedoms in the face of great adversity, largely inspired by the gay rights marches arising during the 1969 New York City Stonewall riots. This month especially is a time to raise awareness about the root issues most prevalent to the queer community still to this very day. Pointed discrimination, violence, assault, and in more extreme cases, queer biased homicides are some of the darker facets pertaining to the gay community. These kinds of harsh truths give way to the fact that today, LGBTQIA plus people are about 9 times more likely than non-queer identified people to be victims of violent hate crimes. In a 2020 report, the FBI recognized 1,051 victims of hate crimes targeted due to their sexual orientation, or about 13.5% of all hate crimes reported that year. Of that, a total of 236 victims of hate crimes were aimed at victims due to their gender identity, or about 3% of all hate crimes noted. Between the years of 2017 to 2019, the annual National Crime Victimization Survey analyzed that LGBTQ plus people experienced 6.6 violent hate crimes per 1,000 people, compared to their hetero counterparts at 0.8 victimizations per 1,000 people. The National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs, or NCAVP for short, concluded that roughly 91% of all LGBTQ plus homicide victims were Black, with an estimated 64% of said casualties being Black transgender women. Anti-LGBTQIA plus mobilization, which includes demonstrations, political violence, and offline propagated activity, has risen to its highest level since 2020. Acts of anti-LGBT displays have more than doubled compared to previous years, with nearly 200 anti-gay incidents already reported so far this year, including my disappointing ass hometown as well. Judging by the recent uptick in newly proposed anti-LGBT legislation, I sadly don't foresee the reverse of these figures panning out anytime soon.
That's so sad.
And then we're going to talk about some murder.
Murder!
That we are.
So in honor of Pride Month, your lovely hosts have let me choose who gets to present first this week. And I'm choosing Shayna. Suck it, Shayna!
We obviously know who her favorite is.
So the case I have for you this week is the case of Jason Michael Fox. I chose this one because Jason is from Newport, Washington, and his murder took place only 8.5 miles from my house. And for that reason, it piqued my interest, and all the details to come has had me following it from the beginning, when it started out as only a missing persons case. I apologize in advance for this one. I kind of have it set up where it kind of bounces, but it all makes sense in the end. So hopefully you guys can still follow along. It made sense in my mind. In late 2020, Pepper Fox turned to TikTok to bring attention to her son's disappearance and eventual murder when she felt that law enforcement wasn't taking her son's case seriously enough. She posted a video of her saying, "This is my attempt to get a hold of Ellen DeGeneres and Lady Gaga." That's when LGBTQ advocate Josh Helfgott, who has more than 3.3 million TikTok followers, stitched her video to his own post and gave this response. "I'm not Gaga, but you want your son's story to go viral, and I think I can help." That TikTok post has garnered more than 1 million likes, and the hashtag Justice for Jason Fox has nearly 13 million views overall. Pepper says she has evidence proving her son was killed because he was gay, although law enforcement in Pend Oreille County remains hesitant to say that his sexuality was the reason he was killed. September 14th, 2020, 19-year-old Jason Fox sent his cousin a text that said, "22 Jurgens Road, just in case anything happens to me." It was the address of Timber River Ranch, a wedding venue on the Pend Oreille River where he planned to meet friends. Jason was uneasy about going because he didn't want Riley Hillstad to be there. He asked Claude Merritt, the person encouraging him to come out, if Riley would be there before going. Claude reassured Jason that Riley would not be there, saying he doesn't like all that drama around him. That text message to his cousin would be the last time Jason's family would hear from him. The next day, Jason's aunt reported him missing. Weeks later, on October 4th, Jason's body would be found buried at the ranch with his hands tied behind his back. Those close to Jason portray him as a magnetic, caring person with an infectious smile. He could light up a room 1 minute and talk his way out of a bad situation in another. At home, life wasn't always easy. Jason's mom, Pepper, moved to Seattle when he was young after she and Jason's dad, Michael, split up. Jason went long periods of his childhood without seeing her at all. Susan Fox, Michael's wife, helped raise Jason and his older brother, Robbie, from a young age. Susan says she and Jason had a rough relationship at times, but she says they loved each other like a mother and a son. Jason and Robbie, who were less than a year apart in age, had contrasting personalities. Jason liked the theater, and Robbie liked sports. Jason was drawn to art, and Robbie liked working on cars. Jason had a good group of friends in school. In high school, Jason was a DJ for the high school's radio station. He joined the wrestling team and tried other activities as he was trying to find his way. It was more difficult for Jason to fit in compared to his older brother, who effortlessly joined the popular kids. Robbie and Jason were close as young kids, but as they got older, Robbie says even he picked on Jason and his friends, something he has said he now deeply regrets. But Jason wasn't just the kid who everyone singled out. If someone said something to him, he'd get back at them. He never went home crying because kids picked on him. He would, however, come home roughed up after being in a fight. Jason didn't come out until he was 18. When he did, it wasn't exactly a shock to his family. Robbie has said he always knew Jason was gay, and Michael says he and Susan knew early too. From what I found, they were supportive of him. Michael is even quoted as having told him, "Okay, I'm glad you're telling us, but we've known forever." Before his senior year of high school, Jason decided he wanted to live with Pepper in Seattle. It was partly because he wanted to reconnect with her, and partly to get out of Newport. I can't even imagine how hard it would be to come out as LGBTQ in that town. It has a population of just over 2,000 people, right on the Idaho border, and they just aren't very accepting of anyone who is even the slightest bit different from them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not the place to be loud and proud.
Yeah, very conservative. There's like a Trump flag on every other building there.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
I was literally about to say Trump Nation.
Yep.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's giving get her done. Yeehaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
You got
more
it.
so, what makes me upset, I can overlook a Trump flag. It's the Confederate flags that really
Yeah.
get to me. I'm like,
Yeah, there's lots of those there too.
Same.
you know, but you know, I'm not here to take anybody's guns away or anything, because I just want to go to my gay best friend's wedding, smoke some weed, and be able to shoot guns afterwards. Like, but
Hear he, hear he.
You don't have a gay best friend because I'm your best friend. You aren't allowed to have any others.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
Always here to remind you.
I already went to your wedding though.
Mm-hmm. We didn't shoot
wanna go
guns
to
out
my-
after.
I want to go to my gay friend's wedding. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I took that very personally.
Oh, Shane.
You can be her good friend. I'm just her
You're my
best friend.
straight best friend, and she's
There you go,
my
that
gay
works.
best friend.
Mhm.
That works.
Is that offensive, Tia? Is that offensive? She's my straight best friend.
No.
Sorry if you guys just heard my
No.
dog bark. She's probably trying to convince somebody to throw her ball to her. So that's what that's about. All right, Shayna, you're on again.
Okay. So his parents all agreed that Seattle would probably be a more accepting culture and would help him feel like he fit in more. Pepper has said that she thinks in some ways that it did help. At first, she said that she could see how happy he was to finally experience being accepted just the way he was. She said he made friends easily and went to parties with kids his age. One day, he confessed to Pepper that he told people in Newport that he was bisexual instead of gay, only because he thought that would be more acceptable in Newport. In Seattle, he started to push the limits more, and Pepper grew concerned because Jason was using gay dating apps to meet strangers. However, his fear of acceptance never went away. At one point, Pepper had scoured his phone and found that Jason was looking up instances of violence against LGBTQ people, or he was searching for which areas of the country were LGBTQ friendly. Before long, his grades started to drop. Pepper said he missed his friends in Newport and he didn't have enough credits to graduate. Michael was adamant that he graduate, so Jason went back to Newport in June to finish the last of his credits at an alternative high school. Jason had told one of his teachers that he wanted to become a nurse to save lives. Within weeks of going back home to Newport, Jason started going down a dangerous road. At some point, Jason admitted to his dad that he had tried meth. Michael said he wouldn't let that happen in his house, so Jason was couch surfing throughout the summer.
Gross. Meth?
Yeah.
Of all things?
Of all things to
Oh,
try.
honey.
Just jump right into it.
Love yourself.
Love yourself.
Love yourself. Just from what I've witnessed and heard from locals, meth is unfortunately a pretty big part of Newport. I mean, obviously,
Yep.
all the Trump flags.
Meth and fentanyl.
Yep. Over the summer, not long before his death, Pepper said that Jason called her and told her that a man had raped him. She asked him to go back to the west side with her, but he said he didn't have any real friends over there. When she told him to report the sexual assault, he said he would, but the Pend Oreille County Sheriff says that it was not reported to anyone. Pepper has said that she holds herself responsible for what happened, and she is overcome with regret that she let Jason return to Newport. While couch surfing, Jason would often stay with Matt Raditz Freeman and his girlfriend, Amanda Pearson. Jason then moved in with other friends, and Matt and Amanda moved to the Timber River Ranch property, where Riley also took up residence. During the summer before his murder is when tensions between the friends grew. In June, Jason told deputies that Matt swung a pipe at his car during an argument. He also said that Matt bullied him into giving Amanda money. In late July, Jason told authorities that Riley and Matt smashed his car windshield after he had taken a license plate off Riley's car. Jason said that Riley had an assault rifle and was yelling about how he wanted to shoot him. As you can imagine, his family was worried about him. A bright future was ahead of him, but he needed some support getting there. In August, his family suggested that Jason go visit Robbie in Pullman. Robbie said he bought a new bed and a TV and set up a room to make his brother comfortable. The plan was for Jason to stay there until he started college at Spokane Falls Community College. Robbie thought it could help him stay away from drugs. He has said about that visit in August that their relationship was the best it had ever been, and for the first time, Robbie saw Jason really fit in. Robbie said, "I think he used meth because he was worried about what everybody else would think. He never accepted himself." After a week in Pullman, Jason told his brother that he didn't want to intrude, so he went back to Newport, saying he would visit him in Pullman again the next month. But just 3 days before Jason had planned to return to Pullman, Claude Merritt encouraged Jason to pick him up and head to Timber River Ranch, stopping by McDonald's first to grab them all some food. Once they were at the ranch, they met up with Matt Raditz Freeman, Kevin Belding, and Riley Hillstad. What happened at the ranch differs from suspect to suspect, but one thing is for sure. In the very early hours of September 15th, 2020, Jason Fox died of blunt force trauma to the head before getting buried in a shallow 3-foot deep grave. The investigation uncovered a web of drugs, harassment, and violence among a group of young adults. Court documents suggest drug use was prevalent among Fox and those suspected in his murder. They did not definitively say whether drugs somehow led to the killing, but at the same time, nothing suggested that Fox's sexuality was the reason he was killed either. So a little backstory about Timber River Ranch. It had been owned by Ken and Shannon Scheckler and was a beautiful, secluded 50 acres on the Pend Oreille River. They operated a wedding venue business there. Ken had filed for divorce, and then COVID hit, so the wedding business took a dive for them. A judge eventually granted Shannon full control over the ranch and ordered Ken to leave the property. On September 13th, so just one day before Jason went out there, Shannon and her attorney arrived at Timber River Ranch to conduct an inventory of the shared property at stake in their divorce proceedings. That is when they found a group of people that they did not know living on the property, including in the ranch's main house. Those people included Matt and Amanda, among others. As they continued their survey of the property, they came to a tiny home located down a dirt road, closer to the river. When Shannon's attorney, Aaron Jones, knocked on the door and announced himself, Riley Hillstad came to the door, armed with 2 pistols in his belt. Riley indicated that he had the authority of Ken to run the place. Jones tried to press Riley about what he meant by that, and also asked him where a number of missing vehicles were for the inventory, and Riley only gave very vague answers. Ken's attorney has rejected the claim that Ken left the men in control of the property. In fact, the group was squatting on the property, and Ken has charges such as wire fraud and theft against Riley and Matt. Investigators have reported that on September 14th, Jason made a drug deal with Ashley Shelgren, who had been dating Riley Hillstad. Jason didn't have the money to buy meth from her, so he gave her his Apple Watch to hold as collateral until he could pay her. When Jason realized that he had been given salt instead of meth, he sent her Facebook messages trying to get his watch back. Search warrants revealed that at the same time, Jason was messaging someone else about buying drugs. Later that night is when his friend, Claude, messaged him about going out to the ranch to hang out. And again, on the 16th is when his aunt reported him missing. On the afternoon of September 17th, police went out to the ranch in search of Jason after an emergency cell phone ping showed he'd been there just after midnight. They found Riley, Matt, Claude, and Amanda at the property. Each one told investigators something different about when they had last seen Jason. Claude said he hadn't seen Jason in 2 weeks. Riley said he hadn't seen Jason for a month. Matt said that Jason knew better than to come out there and had not been there for 2 months. Amanda said Jason had been on the property a week prior, adding he had to be escorted off the property. 5 days later, on September 22nd, Jason's vehicle was found in Libby, Montana. Phone records indicated that Matt's phone was in the same place after Jason's disappearance. After discovering his car, investigators returned to the ranch for another round of interviews. As mentioned earlier, everyone told varying versions of a similar story. That Jason had come out to the ranch in the early hours of September 15th and gotten into an argument with Matt. When it appeared that Matt was about to assault Jason, they said that Claude intervened. Jason then left in a silver car, and the men followed him off the property to make sure he left. Law enforcement got consent from Shannon Sheckler to search the property. On October 2nd, they found a pill bottle with Jason Fox's name on it along a trail leading to state land next to the ranch. They also found broken black sunglasses with the lenses missing. In a clearing off the trail, investigators found 2 parked boats, one up on a trailer and one sitting on the ground. Dogs they brought to aid the search alerted authorities to the grounded boat. Beneath it, they found what appeared to be fresh gravel, with tire tracks leading toward it. 2 days later, I'm not sure why it took them 2 days, but 2 days later, on October 4th, authorities brought a backhoe to the property and began digging beneath the boat. They found Jason's body with his hands bound behind his back. When authorities interviewed the suspects again more than a month later on November 7th, Riley showed up first wearing a ballistic vest, pepper spray, handcuffs, knives, an AR-15, and a handgun.
Yeah, because that screams that you're innocent.
Yeah, because why wouldn't you show up to a police interview that way?
Yeah.
In his conversation with deputies, Riley talked angrily under his breath about Ken Sheckler and said he should have killed him when he had the chance. Ken Sheckler, again, being one of the owners of the ranch. Riley also did what 3 of the 4 suspects would ultimately do in interviews with investigators that day. He acknowledged that Jason had been killed at 22 Jurgens Road in the early hours of September 15th, but denied doing so himself and cast blame onto his fellow suspects. Riley told deputies that Claude and Matt had beaten Jason in the shop on the property. Claude, however, blamed Riley and Matt. Matt, of course, told investigators that Claude and Riley had beaten Jason nearly to death, while Jason was seated in a chair before burying him, presumably alive. All 3 of them indicated that Jason was buried on the property using a skid steer, which is like a small excavator. All denied their involvement in the shallow burial. Kevin Belding stuck to the story that Jason had driven his car off the ranch property. It has been found that Jason Fox was not buried alive, that he had died from the blunt force trauma to his head before being buried.
And he was buried on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So how did he drive his own car off?
Yeah. Well, that was just the story they were telling, because when they found the car, they had also found that I think it was Matt's phone had also pinged from Libby, Montana.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt drove his car there.
I know, but they're stupid to say that Jason had driven his car off of the ranch's property if he was buried on the property, because that would have meant that they then followed him, killed him somewhere else, and brought him
And drug
back.
him back, yeah.
And drug him back to the fucking property.
Well, I wouldn't give these
idiots.
guys medals or awards for
Oh, God.
their education.
I can imagine that they have like a combined IQ of like 20, so.
I think that's being a little generous.
I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt.
These guys don't deserve that. Even if they can't prove it's a hate crime, Pepper remains convinced that Jason's murder had to do with sexuality, either Jason's or that of his murderers. Jason's dad, Michael, says he's glad that people on TikTok are angry about the murder of his son. Pepper says the attention on social media has reminded people that it's still difficult to grow up gay, especially in a rural town. She says because of that attention, she was able to help lead the very first Pride Parade in Newport, Washington, in honor of her son on April 3rd, 2021, what would have been Jason's 20th birthday.
I was there for that.
Were you? I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep, I was there for that.
That's awesome. Jason's memorial site had been vandalized with homophobic slurs. Although his family has their suspicions on who did it, no charges have been made. So, the suspects and the time they were sentenced to. So, Riley Hillstad, he was 26 years old at the time of the murder. The man accused of orchestrating the murder was found guilty of second-degree murder, first-degree manslaughter, unauthorized removal or concealment of a body, unlawful disposal of human remains, and tampering with evidence in relation to the death of Jason Fox. He was found not guilty of first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping. He was sentenced to 18 years and 3 months with 36 months of supervision after release. Claude Merritt, he was 25 at the time of the murder. He was sentenced to nearly 28 years in prison for the murder and kidnapping of Jason Fox. Merritt will get credit for time served and 36 months of community custody. This is the high end of the sentencing range for Merritt's murder and kidnapping charges, and exactly what the family of Jason Fox asked for in their victim impact statements. Matthew Raditz Freeman, who was 28 at the time of the murder, I actually could not find a single thing that he was officially charged with / sentenced to. So I'm not sure if charges were dropped for some reason, or more likely his trial just has not come yet. The only article I could find was from June of last year saying that the trial for Matt had not begun yet. Kevin Belding, who was 24 at the time of the murder, he faced several charges, including murder, manslaughter, and kidnapping. In a plea agreement, he pleaded guilty to rendering criminal assistance and failure to notify a coroner. The criminal assistance charge, which is a felony, has a maximum sentence of 1 whole year in prison, while the other charge, failing to notify a coroner, is 90 days. Belding already spent at least 15 months in jail waiting for a trial. Due to his time served, he is now a free man. The 2 females that were there, Amanda Pearson, who is Matt's girlfriend, and Ashley Shelgren, who is Riley's girlfriend, and also who had sold Matt salt instead of meth earlier in that day, both received immunity and no charges were filed, although they were both at the location the night he was murdered. 2 days after the men were arrested for murder charges, so on November 9th, Ashley was actually arrested on a charge of possession of methamphetamine. So yeah.
That. Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that he was involved in meth, because I obviously followed all the stuff on TikTok and everything like that.
I did too.
Yeah.
I obviously heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea there was any drugs involved until I started doing research for this case.
Yeah.
Because as far as I knew from the TikToks and everything, was that he was literally killed because he was gay. And they didn't like that.
I wonder why the little hussy who sold him salt didn't get charged at least manslaughter. Right. Or attempted manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin he took the plea deal, but he was even still charged with criminal assistance and failure to notify a coroner, which those 2 should have been at least charged with that because they were there.
Didn't she lure Jason back to the property?
Yes. So I couldn't find any actual news articles or stuff like that. So according to Pepper Fox's TikTok, because Ashley sold him the salt and ignored his messages asking for his watch back, and then when Claude had texted him or whatever, from what I gather from it, that's why they went out to the ranch specifically, was to get his watch back from Ashley, from my understanding.
I didn't know that meth dealers take credit anymore. You know.
In this economy, I understand.
You got to do what you got to do.
Man, I thought that was a cash-only business.
Well, you were wrong, my friend.
Yes. Apparently, I don't do drugs.
Yeah. there's a lot of other stuff on her TikTok, and obviously she'd have a better understanding than someone from the outside. But I know there's been, from her TikTok, there's been a few other names kind of thrown in there too. I couldn't necessarily find any like definitive stuff on it. So I didn't really want to put in a bunch of like he said, she said stuff. But she is still adamant that it was a hate crime. Police have not charged them with it being a hate crime just because they didn't necessarily have evidence of it being a hate crime.
Yeah. As far as they're concerned, it's, a drug deal gone wrong. And, I definitely understand why his mom was all over social media saying that it was a hate crime, because people fucking riot. It happens, and good for them, because they, they would probably, it would never be solved had she not done that. Had it not blown up, been labeled a hate crime. And it's sad. It's sad that it's like that, because
it's sad that it has to come to that.
It shouldn't matter his sexual orientation. They should just do their fucking job and find who killed him. Like,
I agree.
He's missing. Find him. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And coming like as a mother's perspective, I probably would have went off of that as well when I noticed that police weren't really giving a shit about it.
I would have been right there with you.
They noticed that drugs are involved, so they're like, not important. So I'm just glad that she was able to get so much support and attention brought to it that the police were like, okay, well, let's actually solve it then and get shit done on it. Although it makes it kind of clear in like the police reports and all that stuff that he was killed because of a drug deal. At the same time, I feel like it was that his sexual orientation still had something to do with it, because his memorial was vandalized with homophobic slurs.
Definitely.
So you're not going to do that if you aren't seeing his sexual orientation. Like, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But obviously that had something to do with it. So, but yeah, I feel like she was 1,000% correct in going about it the way that she did.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't blame her one bit. And if that was your child, I'd be backing you. You're like, yep.
Gay as fuck.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Tia?
So coincidentally enough, I was listening to Marvin Gaye not too long ago, guys. Sorry, Shayna. This has absolutely nothing to fucking do with your case. Apologies, sister. But I was just listening to the God, the GOAT, the man, the myth, the legend himself, R.I.P., Mr. Marvin Gaye. And I kind of thought about like how, I could be wrong. This is all alleged, of course. But how he was apparently shot in the back of his head by his father because of his sexual orientation as well. What? It's something that I think about often. Yeah, it's crazy. Funny enough, we only know that story because of one crazy ass old man by the name of Quincy Jones. According to old boy Quincy, Marvin Gaye had a thing with Marlon Brando and Richard Pryor, allegedly. Yeah.
Are you shitting me right now?
I am not. He was being a messy little diva a couple years ago. He spoke about the boys doing wild things. Apparently, this is all according to Quincy, not my words. I wasn't there. But apparently, men would get high on like a lot of Quaaludes, like a lot of the artists and like men of like high esteem. Yeah, they were getting real fucking lit off of Quaaludes, and
not the lewds.
Yeah, straight up the lewds. I don't know if it's true, but apparently they make you want to suck mad dick. So shout out to Quincy Jones and Quaaludes, man. Let's
the
bring those
Quaaludes.
back. To the Ludes.
Quaaludes.
Cheers.
The real MVP.
Well, my lovable bitch Tara, looks like it's your go.
This episode is a lot longer than we expected, so we will continue it in part 2. Come back on Wednesday for a midweek drop.